A very warm good evening to everyone. So today on the sixth day of Itihasa Saptaha, 7 days international webinar on the theme Rewriting Her Story, we have the resource person entitled as Dr. Monmayee Basu, Associate Professor, Department of History, Hansraj College, University of Delhi, Delhi. And she's going to talk on the title Social Institutions, Law and Indian Women, which is a very interesting topic. And it's our 15th lecture of Itihasa Saptaha. I warmly welcome you, ma'am, to this session and thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's a honor to have you on this platform. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you invited me. And you people have taken so much of enthusiasm and so much of care of all the speakers. Thank you,
Thank
Nidhi.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manali.
And I also welcome our Honorary President Shri Nandan Shastriji and President Ms. Manali Momaya. Also, all the participants who are joining us through this session. Now I request Ms. Manali Momaya to introduce our today's resource person, Dr. Monmayee Basu, ma'am. Over to you, Manali.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. It's a privilege to introduce Dr. Monmayee Basuji. She has distinguished herself in the study of certain critical topics on contemporary historical and social issues, in particular gender issues, events arising out of and connected to the Indian independence movement, and the study of leading social and political leaders of India who influenced these developments. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, Manali, you are.
Okay, because there's a disturbance going on in the background, that's why. Her primary area of interest relates to the impact of law on women's rights in India. She has delivered talks on her areas of interest in prestigious institutions both in India and abroad. She was also involved in the master level courses in Delhi University from time to time. She has several publications to her credit. Her book, Hindu Women and Marriage Law, From Sacrament to Contract, published by Oxford University Press in 2001 and later developed by them into an omnibus, Women and Law, also published by Oxford University Press in 2004, is an authoritative study on the influence of legislative measures in addressing women's issues in India. She has also co-authored textbooks in Bengali, which has been the standard history text for West Bengal School Board. Her treatise, Comprehensive History of Modern Europe, is soon to be published by Orient Black Swan. Her latest publications are the essays on topic of Netaji's contribution towards empowerment of women in two separate books on Netaji and the Indian National Army, published by the Indian Council of Historical Research (ICHR), New Delhi, and Asiatic Society, Kolkata, respectively, in August 2021 on the occasion of the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. On the same occasion, she had delivered a special lecture on Netaji's birth anniversary on 23rd April 2021, organized by the Indian Council of Historical Research. It was published as a special issue entitled Netaji, the People's Man by ICHR in March 2021. Currently, she is Associate Professor, Department of History, Hansraj College, University of Delhi. She lives in Gurgaon, NCR. Ma'am, it's good to have you here from Delhi, and we are so looking forward to listening to your talk. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Manali. I read from the bottom of my heart. I thank history enthusiasts and the Honorary President Nandan Shastriji, Manali, Nidhi for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to come and speak here on this occasion. Now, today my topic, Nidhi, can you show the first slide?
Sure, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing it.
Yes.
Just give me a minute, ma'am.
Yes,
Just.
no problem, no problem. Take your time.
Ma'am, just give me a minute.
Yes, yes.
Manali,
Take your
uh,
time. No problem.
can you just start the PPT? I'm not able to get it.
Uh,
I have downloaded the earlier one, but the new one I'm not able to get it in the email ID.
it's in the same email, dear. It's in the
Uh,
same chain of this one. Let me. I'll share it from my end. No issues.
okay, I'm trying to see it. I'm not getting.
No, but if I share it, I won't be able to control the live streaming.
Okay, then if
Okay,
you,
wait. I'm just searching it. Just give me a minute.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm getting the earlier one. That's
no
why. That's.
problem. I'll start sharing it from my side, and then you can take over.
No, got it. Wait.
Got it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
or you start show the earlier one. Doesn't matter. I
No,
No,
will
no.
have the extra slide which I have.
she got it now.
Uh, yes, I
Yes,
got it.
fine.
Yeah, I have shared the screen. I hope it's visible.
Just no, it's not visible yet. Yeah, now it's visible.
Now, yes. This is my topic: social institutions, law, and Indian women. Now, before going deep into the topic in discussion, it is very important to understand what exactly a social institution is. Next slide, please, Nidhi. According to the American sociologist Emery S. Borgadas, a social institution is a structure of society that is organized to meet the needs of the people through well-established procedures. In the words of next slide, let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. In the words of historian H.E. Barnes, social institutions are social structure and machinery through which the human society organizes, directs, and executes the multifarious activities required by society for human needs. So, in other words, we can say that social institutions have been created to fulfill the various needs of the people of the society. Now, the social in sociology, the social institutions are primarily five. Now, let's move on to the next slide, please. Yes. And these are family, education, religion, government, and economy. These are the social institutions, primary social institutions, according to sociology. Now, these social institutions are universal, though they may vary, cutting across cultures, races, civilizations, but their basic nature and objectives remain the same. Now, if the social institutions do not prove adequate enough to redress the problems of the society, then of course the intervention of law becomes absolutely essential. So now, in the course of my talk, I would like to indicate how the lives of Indian women are inseparably intertwined with these major social institutions, these five social institutions, each influencing the other, because these are not watertight compartments and they are constantly influencing and impacting each other, and also the time to time legal measures that have been introduced. And this law is brought about by government. The laws, which the intervention of laws, I was saying, laws are brought about by the government, which is another major social institution. And the impact of these legal measures on the life of the people in general and Indian women in particular, that we have to see. And at the outset, I want to make it clear that out of these five social institutions which we can see on the screen, I will leave education out of the purview of my discussion, because education itself is a very complex topic, and women and education is such a lengthy and complex topic that my talk will become absolutely unwieldy. And so I'm not, it requires a completely separate session altogether. So I will discuss the rest of the four social institutions: family, religion, government, economy, and how they are interrelated and the interplay of these social institutions in the lives of Indian women. Now, family is the most important social institution, we all know, in human life. Within the family, a primary institution is marriage, and marriage again is interwoven with property, especially with the economy, and the economy includes property, familial and individual, stridhan, and earnings, personal earnings through job, business, etc. And in the family, the woman occupies the central and the most essential place, and vice versa. That is, in the life of a woman, family has a very, very distinctive role to play. So now, in all these, we find that another major social institution, that is religion, plays a very significant role. In a multi-religious, multicultural, pluralistic society like that of India, different religious faiths reside side by side. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So the prominent religions existing in India side by side are Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Zoroastrianism or the Parsi religion, Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism. Now Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism, they have emerged from the Hindu religion in protest against Brahmanical supremacy, and therefore they follow the Hindu law legal system, the Hindu system of law. So the religions which follow their own individual systems are Islam, Christianity and Zoroastrianism, that is the Parsi religion. Now here comes in the fourth major social institution, that is the government. Now how? Because in order to regulate the individual customs and practices of each faith with the objective of preserving the sentiments of each religious community, the government have introduced personal laws or family laws. So what are personal laws? Personal laws are a set of laws which are applicable to a particular religious community. For example, the Hindus have their own personal laws, the Muslims have their own personal law, the Christians have their own personal law, so on and so forth. Only the Buddhists, Sikhs and the Jains, they follow the Hindu system. They come under the Hindu system. Now, this being the situation, we have seen that government generally did not want to touch upon the religious sentiments of the people from earliest times. Then how did personal laws come into being? In 1772, for example, we have seen Governor General Warren Hastings laid down that laws of Quran will be the basis of the Muslim laws and those of the Shastras will be the basis of the Hindu laws. The same was substantiated by Lord Cornwallis in 1793. The Second Law Commission, which was appointed by the Charter Act of 1853, also forcefully declared that there is no question of codification of Hindu laws or Muslim laws, because these laws derive their origin from their respective religions, and it is beyond the pale of the British legislature, and it is sacrilegious to touch upon them. So it is not to be touched upon. So while this was the situation, however, it is to be noted that in 18th century, a very important phenomenon happened. What was that? That is the awakening of the Indian Renaissance, the cry for reforms, social regeneration, social reforms, and social reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Ray, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Dayanand Saraswati, they all stepped in, the Prarthana Samaj, the Brahma Samaj, they all came, and so many laws, reforms were introduced. And how can these reforms be introduced? Because they could be introduced only through laws. And that is how the system of personal laws started. For example, particularly from 1862 onwards, we find that a plethora of laws came in. For example, the Indian Divorce Act of 1869, the Special Marriage Act of 1872, the Christian Marriage Act of 1872, Married Women's Property Act of 1874, and several other property acts of women. Then the Age of Consent Act, which banning child marriage in 1891, and finally the Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929, or the Sarda Act, and finally the Hindu Code Bill in 1956, the Hindu Code. So several laws began to be introduced for all religions. For example, the Indian Christian Marriage Act, then the Indian Divorce Act, they were meant only for Christians. And then the Hindu Code was meant for the Hindus, etc., etc., so on and so forth. So that was the beginning of the time of family laws or personal laws, in order to modify the system which existed, in order to remove the constraints upon the people of the society, to remove their pains and agony, etc., etc. That was the purpose. Now we will see. So we see that there were three sets of laws existing side by side. One, the personal laws, which are originally derived from the religious communities, the religion, which are influenced by religion. Then the Constitution, and so many articles of the Constitution, and also the Criminal Procedure Code for punishing criminal activities. So these are the three simultaneous sets of law which prevailed. Now the Constitution and the articles of the Constitution and the CRPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, they were uniform and equal for everybody. Only the personal laws and the family laws, they were different, they varied and differed from community to community, because keeping in view the sentiments of these particular religious communities. So now we will see we will see the evolution of these social institutions, how they evolved and how they changed over the passage of time through these several personal laws and other laws which were being passed, and how they have come to the modern day concept of the social institutions as we understand them today. Now, I will take up each religion very briefly, and I will explain how the social institutions of those religious communities changed. For example, the Hindu religion. In Hinduism, marriage was, let's take up marriage, which is a very, very important institution, marriage and family, very important institution, social institution. So, marriage in Hinduism was sacramental. That is, it could not be severed. It could not be broken. No question of divorce. Then, generally, monogamy was prescribed by the Vedas, but under specific circumstances, polygamy was allowed. For example, if the wife was barren, or if the son was not being born, or the lack of religious mindedness of the wife, etc. These are the conditions. And we have seen that in Ramayana, Dasaratha married 3 times in order to get a child. So these were circumstances. So generally monogamy, but polygamy under certain circumstances. However, this changed later on, and it is again interwoven with the problem of child marriage. Child marriage also began, because in Vedas, generally it is prescribed that girls should be educated enough and then they should be married. But since the days of the coming of the foreign invaders, the marriage of girls before daughters, before they attained puberty, started. And it reached ultimately such impossible proportions that uh, um, one man was being married to several young girls who had not attained puberty. Because if the girl attains puberty, then it becomes her marriage becomes very, very difficult. She won't be married at all. So the parents were in a hurry to get them married off, and then there were so many restrictions also, caste restrictions and caste specifications. But the Kulins have to be married to the Kulins, etc. So therefore, child marriage started. And one, I can give you the example of Bengal. In Bengal, one man and was married to almost 50 or more than 100 girls because of those specific caste concepts and principles. And generally, the girls were all below puberty, and they were married to men who were were more than ages of their father or grandfather, something like that. And there were many men who survived on this custom. They used to visit from village to village, give their father-in-law's houses. They enjoyed their hospitality, enjoyed the young brides, and collected enormous gifts, and that was their livelihood. And when that man died, then all these girls who were married to him became widows. And widow remarriage was not proclaimed. Widow remarriage was not allowed. Anidhi, please, can we have the second next slide? For example, and in Manu, Manu said in Manusmriti, Mrite Bhattari Sadhvi Stri Brahmachare Swarg Gachata Putraupi Yatha Te Brahmacharina. Arthat, on the death of her husband, the good wife who remains firm and who lives the life of a brahmacharini goes to heaven like the other brahmacharis, even though she is childless. So there was no question of widow remarriage. So this was the concept, peculiar concept of ancient marriage, which, however, underwent tremendous. And then there was the Sati Pratha. We also know that, and when that a man died, so many of his widows, they were all forced to climb the funeral pyre along with their dead husband. So, to put an end to these pernicious customs, so the social reformers became absolutely restless, and because of their untiring efforts of Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, etc., the Sati Prevention Act was passed in 1829, Widow Remarriage Act was passed in 1856, and then ultimately, and the age of consent, that is the Child Marriage Restraint Act was passed, and finally the Child Marriage Restraint Act had made it very clear that no girls below the age of 14 could be get married. So therefore, below puberty, no girl was to get married. It was illegal, illegitimate. So therefore, all these reforms, so therefore social reforms were going hand in hand with these laws. And these are all personal laws for the Hindus. And finally, the Hindu Code. Hindu Code was in two parts: the Hindu Marriage Act and the 1955, and the Hindu Hindu Succession Act 1956. So the marriage was being controlled by the Hindu Marriage Act, and the property rights were being guided by the Hindu Succession Act of 1956. Now, not only the marriage laws were changed, now the monogamy was strictly introduced, divorce was introduced, marriage was no longer sacramental, child marriage, the minimum age for a girl to get married was fixed, widows, of course, the Widow Remarriage Act was sustained very strongly, and so a huge changes came in the marriage laws of the Hindus. And not only that, by the Hindu Succession Act of 1956, the Hindu women also got the right to property. From the ancient times, women did not have any right to property. Now, in the 12th century, two systems of law had come into vogue, and they were based on the commentaries of the Shrutis and the Smritis, Mitakshara and Dayabhaga. These two systems were Mitakshara and Dayabhaga. Mitakshara was prevalent all over India, and Dayabhaga was applicable only in Bengal and Assam. Now, in Mitakshara, there were two, a deceased man can have two kinds of property. One, his self-earned earnings, self-earned property, and another one, the joint family property. And at that time, joint family was the prevalent practice. So now, in the self-earned property, of course, went to the widow only if there was no son. She did not have a son. But the joint Hindu property, our undivided Hindu family, that went to a coparcenary. Now, what is a coparcenary? Coparcenary is a line of lineal descendants. The deceased man, and then under him, the three lineal descendants, the sons, grandsons, great-grandsons. So that is the coparcenary. And they got all the rights to the family property. It devolved upon them by birth. Women had no right in it. The daughters or the widows, they were not a part of the coparcenary. So that was the Mitakshara law, and which was prevalent almost all over India. In Dayabhaga, there was no coparcenary system, but the widows did not have, or the daughters did not have any right to property, because it went, the self-earned property and also the joint family property went to the sons. So there was, the women did not have property, but the Hindu Succession Act of 1956 gave the property. In fact, to be fair, it should be said that earlier also 2-3 property acts had been passed in favor of Hindu women, one in 1929, another one in 1937. Some amount of property were given to the women, widows, and not only the widows of the predeceased sons, they also got. But one thing was there, whatever property they got, a little bit, that was limited estate. That is, they could not sell it away, they could not give it away to anybody, and after their death, it passed on to the lineal descendants. That was the practice. So therefore now, but all these were removed by the Hindu Succession Act, and the widow, the sons and the daughters, they were brought at par to claim the property of a deceased man who had died intestate. Intestate means without making a will. So all of them got the equal share to the man's property, this deceased man's property, widow, sons, daughters. So that was a huge change which was made, definitely, by that was the Hindu code. Now, similarly, if we look at Islam, in Islam, I must say that the Prophet was much kinder than the Muslim laws to the two women. Yes, there was polygamy, but he had prescribed polygamy only under some special circumstances, where the women were destitute, they were helpless, they were slaves. To rescue such women, polygamy was permitted, and only up to 4 wives. Not at random, but it turned out to be different later. Now, then talaq. Talaq was there, but talaq was very difficult. It was a difficult system. Talaq will be pronounced once, and then a whole menstrual cycle will be waited upon. And then the second time, the talaq will be uttered. So in this way, 3 menstrual courses have to be waited upon. to complete the process of talaq. That was the intention, was to give the husband and wife, the distraught husband and wife, time to reconcile, time for coming to a reconciliation. So, but sitting at uttering the word at one sitting and the divorce is accomplished, it was not like that. Then the women also had the right to khula. But though, of course, it depended upon the whims of the husband. And then the one very important thing in Islam was that no Muslim marriage is complete without meher. Meher is bride price, which is given to the paid to the bride by the bridegroom, either in money or in cash or in goods, whatever. So and and maintenance, of course, as far as maintenance is concerned, the Prophet had not recommended maintenance beyond the period of iddah. Iddah is the period of mourning which a woman performs after divorce or after the death of her husband and all that. And but Prophet had said that if the wife is absolutely destitute and in utter distress, then maintenance should be given to her. Now, all these changed with the Shariat law, which came into existence in 1937. So, maintenance beyond the time of Iddah was generally not given. Then, at one sitting, pronunciation, though it has now been changed by the Triple Talaq Act of 2019, the uttering the word thrice at one sitting. So, the things have became different under the Shariat law. So, one thing can be said, that while the Hindu marriage did not give respect to women, the Hindu marriage laws, the ancient laws did not give respect to women and were really shackles at the feet of women, the laws gave them dignity. The Hindu laws, the Hindu code gave them dignity. But in Islam, the Prophet was much, much kinder and the laws made them harsher for women. Now, in the same was the case with I will very briefly try to finish. Now, in Christianity, of course, Christ was quite kind to women folk. Monogamy was strictly introduced. There was no question of divorce. For Christ, divorce had no meaning because marriage was according to a divine institution which could not be broken by human beings. However, this changed with the coming of the Hindu Special Marriage Act and the Christian Marriage Act of 1872, which was meant for the Christians, and because divorce was introduced, and monogamy, however, was strictly maintained. Maintenance was given only to women. Only women could claim maintenance. The husbands could not claim maintenance, even if they did not have any earning. So, and in the Christian law, the succession laws are also quite liberal because the widow gets 1/3 of the share of her husband's property, and the rest goes to the lineal descendants. If there is no lineal descendant, then the share of the widow goes up to half. And if there is half and the rest half will go to the kindred. Kindred means the people descending from the same ancestor. That is brothers, cousins, etc. So then brothers, sisters, cousins. And if there is no kindred, then the whole amount will be given to the widow. That was the Christian law. And Christian law, the Christian Succession Act of 1925, the Indian Succession Act it is called. And the Parsis also, their complete equality is maintained in Zoroastrianism because Zarathustra believed in complete equality between men and women. And so therefore, that was there. Now, one thing was, however, very clear. Just like the Christians, the Parsis also did not have any maintenance. did not, the women, the husbands did not have any right to maintenance. Only the wives had the right to maintenance, and not the wives. And the wives had the right to maintenance and not the husbands, even if they were without any income. And but one thing was there, in matters of succession, the Parsi law does not maintain much equality, because the share of the daughter is always the half of the property of her father, half of what the share her brother got. So the daughter's share was always the half. And another important point is that the Parsi women who married outside their community, they were lost for the community, and they were not allowed to attend any religious function, anything, any religious rites, not even the funerals of their near and dear ones. Now, so this is the pattern which was maintained as far as the social institutions like family, economy are concerned, and religion therefore plays, another social institution, religion, plays such an important role, and also the government, by government has tried to redress the problems a lot by introducing legal measures from time to time. So all these four social institutions, family, economy, government, religion, are all intertwined and all interwoven with each other. Now, I will just take very little time to finish up, to conclude. Now, so social institutions have changed a lot. Now, and this is the next, this is the chart. This is the chart I have made, in which it is clearly given which religious community gives what kind of right to its women under these heads: marriage, divorce, maintenance, custody, inheritance, etc. So this is the chart. Now, the question is, there was, of course, one thing was there, that these laws divided the society, because some religious community had enjoyed certain rights, other religious communities did not enjoy those rights. For example, the Hindus, Hindu Succession Act clearly stated that widow, son, daughter, they were all at par, whereas other religious communities did not give so. So therefore, maintenance was one-sided. In Christianity and Parsi, they were quite generous about maintenance of the wives, but the Islam is not. So there was, so division has occurred, and that naturally gives rise to a lot of protest. I will just give you 2-3 examples, 1 or 2 examples in very briefly. For example, in 1946, a man, Hindu man, Narasu Appa Mali, he was booked, he belonged to the Bombay province, and he was booked for bigamy. Because in 1946, the Bombay province had introduced monogamy. Bigamy, anti-bigamy law had been passed. Anti-bigamy, anti-polygamy. But this man had married for the second time, so he was booked, he was jailed. Narasu Appa Mali raised a huge hue and cry. He said it is discrimination against him. Discrimination because 1946, before the Hindu Code, Hindu Marriage Act 1955, this is, we are talking about 1956. At that time, polygamy was prevalent among the Hindus. In all other parts of India, only in Bombay it was not. So therefore, Narasu Appa Mali said, I am being discriminated. The Muslims are practicing polygamy. The Hindus everywhere are practicing polygamy. I am being discriminated. So, but though, however, he did not win the case. Then another case I will give about, which we all know. So I won't go into the detail. The Shabano case. Shabano in 1978 was thrown out by her husband, 62-year-old lady, after 43 years of marriage. And she was absolutely in a destitute condition. and she wanted maintenance from her husband under the Criminal Procedure Act, Procedure Code, Section 125. The Supreme Court gave her granted rupees 500 every month to be paid to Shabanu. But the entire the religious community, there was so much of protest against this, because maintenance is not given to Muslim women beyond the time of the period of Iddah. So therefore, huge hue and cry was raised, and ultimately Shabanu had to withdraw her claim. She said that she did not know that it was clashing with her religious sentiments. So she walked off. And the next, we are coming to an end of our discussion. The next slide, please. So V.R. Krishna Iyer, justice, very respectable justice, he said, the bill to kill the Shabanu decision of the Supreme Court is unfortunate, political product of a creative genius for multi-dimensional injustice. The bill is an injustice to the Republic's secular principle, because CRPC is a secular principle. It is an injustice to women's basic rights. It is an injustice to the egalitarian policy in our constitution. In Articles 14, 21, 25, Articles 14, 21, 25 of our constitution guarantees equality to all citizens. So it is a transgression of that. It is a vindictive injustice to the Holy Quran, which insists on payment of maintenance to divorced women in distress. I discussed that already. So therefore, there was huge, so these problems were there. Then a Parsi lady, Gulram Gupta, who had married outside her custom, had her community, and her sister, both had married outside their community. And so therefore, they were not allowed to attend the funeral rituals of their parents, although they had taken the permission from the Valsad Anjuman Trust, that they had requested that they should be allowed to attend the funerals of their parents. But they were not, they were refused, because that is the Parsi custom. So therefore, she fought the case, and ultimately the Gujarat High Court denied her and that right. But ultimately, the Supreme Court Constitutional Bench under the Chief Justice Deepak Mishra had given her that right. So therefore, what do we find? So in conclusion, the last the slide, Manali. So we can conclude that the social institutions are intertwined and interwoven. They are always influencing each other. Family, law, government, economy, they are all mixed up. They are all influencing each other, and so they are intertwined and interlinked. They are not watertight compartments, number one. Number two, the social institutions are constantly changing. So they are not static, they are dynamic. They're constantly changing. The marriages, the early marriages in all religious communities, they have undergone so much of changes. The property rights have undergone so much of changes. So changes have taken place. Then lastly, it divides the body of Indian women. Indian women is one, the women of India. And although they may differ in languages, regions, and cuisines, but they are one body. And they are like, we can say, multi-patchwork quilt, in which there are so many interwoven designs, so many hues, splash of different colors, but they are all syncretically interwoven into one single masterpiece. That is Indian women. That is the body of Indian women. But they are getting divided because of their personal laws, because of their religious identities. And therefore, disparate identities are emerging. Hindu women, Christian women, Muslim women, Parsi women. And so, therefore, we can see that they are split between two identities. The one is their national identity and another is their religious identity. And it is these two identities are so much at clash with each other that it is very impossible. It is becoming impossible for to retain both the identities. For example, the case of Shabano. As a citizen of this nation, she demanded maintenance under CRPC, which is a legitimate right. But she was deprived of that because of the dominant social institution, religion. Gulrukh Gupta was not allowed to attend the funeral rites of her parents because of her religion. As a free citizen, she wanted to attend it, with all other women of all other communities are attending. So therefore, the national identity and the religious identity, it is becoming impossible for Indian women to maintain both. And they are clashing with each other. That is the impact of social institutions and law on the lives of Indian women. So her story has been rewritten by the social institutions. The social institutions have changed a lot and they have given her many rights. So it has been rewritten, but the journey has not ended. It is still going on. So it requires more to be rewritten, her story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for an absolutely intriguing and thought-provoking lecture. There are so many aspects when it comes to society. Uh, it's a very, very complicated and complex living organism. All
Yes,
these social institutions, and therefore, as you said, they are dynamic and ever changing. So, along with that, the story of women has also evolved. So,
yes. The
uh,
social institutions have evolved. The women's position have evolved.
yes, ma'am.
Ev-
So thank you so much for this wonderful, amazing lecture. I request if we have time for a couple of questions. Actually, we are running late for the next session, but we can take a couple of questions, I guess. So I request the participants if anybody has a question. I do have a question of my own, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Tell me.
Actually, last month, no, I think in March when the world was celebrating International Women's Day,
Yes, yes.
there was a conference on a national level conference on women here in Karnataka in Dharwad, and I was fortunate to attend it. In the inaugural speech of that particular conference, there was a lady, and she is a judge by profession, but she was telling that in context of marriage and the inheritance, uh, she was telling that why do Hindu women need the property of their fathers? They are already there in their husband's house, and they can leave that much for their brothers. Why do they want everything for themselves? They are acting so selfishly. Okay, maybe the constitution has given you this right, but then it is not necessary for you to go and take it. So this kind of mentality among the those who are giving
Women
justice.
themselves. Yes.
So how will that affect the society, especially when women are deprived of their basic rights at so many instances?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Manali. I feel that, every woman should have a source of income, some property of her own, some economic independence of her own, a little bit, whatever. And yes, she is looked after, well looked after in her husband's house, in her father-in-law's house, very fine. But she doesn't have economic independence unless she is a working woman. So if she, but this little bit of property which she gets from her father's side, this will give her some economic independence in times of distress. There are so many women who face so much of problems, domestic violence. They are many a times, look at Shabano. She was driven out at the age of 62. Had she got some property of her own, she would not have been so worried. So it gives them empowerment, it gives them strength. So for that, it is absolutely essential. I think so.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
it's not, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. There's a Shahida ma'am has raised her hand. I ask her to unmute herself and add whatever she wants to this.
Good
Yes.
afternoon, colleagues. I just wanted to say thank you for a very great lesson. It's absolutely fantastic, the points that you have raised. I just wanted to check your ideas and opinion on, because very often it is felt that the religious institution is claimed actually to favor towards a patriarchy system. And
Yes.
then when it comes to make laws for the women, then also at the very top are also men. So how do you feel that women can get a just justice served for their
So
predicament?
that is the that is the question, and that can come through laws, you know. So because see, I was talking about the Hindu marriages. I'm just giving an example. It happens in all the religious communities. I'm talking of the Hindu marriages. How painful it was. Child marriage rampant, small girls getting married to an old man. They are forced to climb the funeral pyre of the husband. They can't remarry. And if you read Manusmriti, they have so much of constraints upon them, their livelihood, their eating habits, their diet, everything. So that those pains, and so it's because why this? Because it's a patriarchal world. So it has been imposed upon them through the patriarchs so many times. And when these laws came, for example, the Widow Remarriage Act, the Child Marriage Restraint Act, there was huge hue and cry from the Hindu Sanatan people, Sanatan Dharmis. They did not want to change. And they said that how can our religion, which we have derived from our Shastras, how can that be changed? So it's patriarchy, but it has been changed. Now the widows can remarry. I don't know how many widows are getting remarried. The number may be large, may not be large, but in educated urban areas, they are getting remarried. The marriage is no longer sacramental. They can end the unhappy marriages through divorce. So little by little, through these institutions, through these legal institutions, through this awareness of people, that is how, and that is the role of law and the government. So whatever uh, mm, uh, dignity or whatever right the religions are not being able, the Shastras, the religions are not being able to give to women, at least let the society give, let the laws give, let the government give. So, don't you think so?
Absolutely, ma'am.
Huh.
That is why the law is there to give
That is
equality to
why the law
women.
is there, and that is why so many personal laws, because personal laws have been uh, uh, introduced because to keep in view the sentiment, religious sentiments of each religious community.
Thank you, ma'am. We will just take one last question because it is there in the chat box already. So this is the last question. How should universal civil code be seen with respect to all women of India, irrespective of their religions, regions, languages, cuisines, gender identities, etc., as a harbinger of hope for a better life, or as the same letters of law that promise a lot but deliver very little?
Yes. Now, see, in so many advanced countries, so many Western countries, so many other countries also, there is no concept of personal law. There is universal, one single uniform law for everybody. And so in our country also it can be introduced. But in our country, which is a multicultural, multi-religious, pluralistic society, it is becoming difficult. So it is good if a uniform, then this what I was saying, that this clash between the national identity and the religious identity of a woman will not take place. There's no question. So now, Shabanos of the world, they will get whatever is available to them by the law of the land. So no question, the personal law will not interfere in it, will not drown and suppress her voice, will not drown her aspirations. So therefore, it is good for women, definitely. But in a multicultural, pluralistic, multi-religious society like ours, there are very few religious society like ours. There are many countries in which there are many religious identities, but they are very much smaller. The one religion generally dominates, and therefore in those countries the UCC, that is Uniform Civil Code, is possible. In our country, up till now, no government has touched upon it, and but in future, if things change and something takes place, it will be good for women. Patriarchy will come down.
Thank you so much, ma'am. What you said is absolutely true. For many political causes, the
Yes,
parties are
yes,
afraid to touch upon these sensitive
yes.
subjects.
In fact, the British also did not. They said, "Oh, Bap re Bap." They have all derived their
Powers.
derived. Thank you, Sukhdevji. They derived their origin from religions. So we are not exactly religious to touch upon them. We will not. We will not.
Thank you so much for this absolutely fruitful session, ma'am.
Thank you. So
Since
Thank you.
we are waiting for the, we
Yes.
are having the next session soon, so I think we will
Yes.
have to end this particular
Yes.
session here.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
request Miss Niti Katti to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Manali, for giving me this opportunity. It was really a wonderful lecture, Monmayee Basu ma'am. It enlightened us and it gave us new perspectives. And thank you so much for your valuable time and for accepting our
Thank you.
invitation. Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you so much.
I also thank Ms. Manali Mumaya, President of
Sorry.
the History Enthusiasts,
Huh.
for being such a wonderful co-host. Thank you so much.
It's all right,
And
Niti. We are jumping into the next session, so no need to
yes,
thank us all.
yeah, and for the participants who raised the questions particularly, thank you so much.
So yes, I'm not going to end this meeting. I'll just end the live stream and get on with the next one, and then we